The world's first hyperinflation was recorded in revolutionary France, more than 200 years ago. In this video, we apply the definition of hyperinflation by Phil Kagan, a monthly inflation rate above 50%. The French hyperinflation peaked in August 1796, at 304% monthly. What caused this crisis? What does it mean to you? We'll start our account of the world's first hyperinflation with its context, the period right before the French Revolution. During the 1700s, the French monarchy did not build the foundations of financial stability. In 1720, the Mississippi bubble popped. France had an inflation bout and defaulted. Unlike England, France did not have a central bank, or fiscal transparency, or a parliament that could reject the king's budget. The French state spending was driven by an absolute king, who was accountable to nobody. French kings got entangled in wars, financed by debt, and then defaulted repeatedly. Bordeaux and White show that in 1759, in the 7 Years' War, the French king defaulted on short-term debts. In 1770, the French monarchy went into partial bankruptcy, defaulting on the repayment of maturing debt, and reducing or suspending interest payments. A brief respite came as Jacques Necker was appointed finance minister. His reforms showed commitment to fiscal prudence. But Necker was dismissed in 1781. The stage was set for major problems. In 1789, the French Revolution ignited. Financial crisis and social distress led to the constitution of the National Assembly. The Bastille was stormed. Radical measures followed: the abolition of feudalism and control over the Catholic Church. France's first constitution appeared. In order to address imminent bankruptcy, the National Assembly created paper money called assignats. These were originally backed by state property, including those confiscated from the Catholic Church. Bordeaux and White note that the initial success of the revolution convinced the public that the Assembly's plans could work. Historian Pierre Caron shows that inflation remained subdued from 1790 to 1792. Assignats did slide against gold and a broader price index, but did not collapse. But war once again would lead to financial catastrophe. The French Revolutionary Wars pitted France against England, Austria, Prussia, and others. Debt payments were suspended indefinitely. Inflation exploded. In 1792, the Assembly replaced the monarchy with the French First Republic. Deposed King Louis XVI was soon executed. The Assembly attempted to contain exploding inflation by declaring the parity of assignat with precious metals. It also announced price controls on a wide range of goods, with the death penalty for hoarders. It was the reign of terror. The result? Eugene White shows how price controls were rejected by farmers, who refused to sell produce, leading to acute food shortages. At the same time, the ongoing war increased public debt, which grew faster than the state's capacity to sell confiscated property. How was this deficit paid for? By printing even more unbacked assignats, of course. Sargent and Velde explain that the government was unable to raise other revenues, as the French economy could not generate enough tax revenues. And thus, the world's first recorded hyperinflation took hold in France, 1795. Hank and Krust show that the French hyperinflation was the first ever recorded. It ranks 13th in the world record table. This French hyperinflation reduced the value of assignats to zero shockingly fast. Hyperinflation peaked in August 1796, at 304% monthly. Prices doubled every 15 days. This caused massive disturbances in France's economy, and disrupted social and political stability even more. In concrete terms, people starved, some to death, and violence spread. This hyperinflation ended following a default on 2/3 of public debt in 1797. The country suffered for an extended period of time. The economy later recovered slowly, and tax revenues increased progressively later under Napoleon Bonaparte. Historian Pamphile Antipa notes that France and England had been constantly at war, and this perpetual clash culminated in the French Wars, starting in 1793. But at the start, the odds were actually in France's favor. It was bigger, more populous, wealthier, and equipped with a large army. And yet, England won the war. How did this happen? Antipa stresses the role of institutions. England had a central bank since 1694, and a parliament that limited the monarchy's powers. France had none of this, just an absolute king. Finance Minister Necker had proposed the creation of a French central bank just like England, but the king rejected this, and Necker was dismissed. The result is shown here, as we compare hyperinflation in France with price stability in England. Which country was in a better position to pay for wars? Our verified sources are here. We encourage you to tell us if your interpretation is different, or if you'd like to suggest other verified sources. What do we conclude? The first hyperinflation was in France, 1795. If you are familiar with history's first monetary crisis as shown here, you are probably scratching your head now. The French case wasn't much different. As we will see in future chapters, this is a lesson in financial history that some government leaders refuse to learn, even today. Our takeaways mirror what we learned from the Chinese example. If you were a saver in Song China or revolutionary France holding paper money, the only defensive action you could have taken was to quickly spend your depreciating money. A flight to real assets is typically seen in episodes of high inflation or hyperinflation. How about today's investors? Sadly, some politicians will succumb to the temptation to print money to pay for unfunded spending. Who pays the price of high inflation? You and all other citizens. You should vote such politicians out of office if you can, or run for the hills if you cannot. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to see more financial history from verified sources, subscribe to our channel and join our community striving to learn from the misfortunes of others.